Well, folks, there's no easy way to say this. For those of you that don't know, for those of you that do, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, great tag team wrestler, and numerous tag teams, mainly the Hart Foundation, and the father of Natalia Neidhart, passed away today at the age of 63. Apparently, he had a seizure of some sort. That's according to a report by TMZ. And so, yeah, he's the fourth wrestler's death, I want to say, in about the last 2 or 3 weeks. You had Nikolai Volkov, Brickhouse Brown, Brian Christopher, and now Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And it's not that the other three didn't affect me. Nikolai did. It's not that the others didn't. I'm not trying to equate that. It's sad that they're all gone. The reason Jim Neidhart's death affects me is because very early on in my life, and for those of you who don't know when I started watching wrestling, I started watching wrestling in 85. Well, Brett and Jim Neidhart were there, and they were part of, they were the Hart Foundation. And Jimmy Hart was their manager, and they teamed with the wrestling referee Danny Davis, Dangerous Danny Davis. Now that was pretty funny. It was actually, they really weren't a bad trio, and it was really interesting to see Brett play a heel early on in his career, especially after being a babyface. But Jim, what stuck out to me about Jim Neidhart, I mean, I love Brett also, and thoughts go out to Brett, Natalia, Jim's now widow, any family members, extended or otherwise. And I think as we fans, we all mourn the loss of Jim Neidhart. For those of us, whether we've been watching wrestling for a little bit, been watching wrestling for as long or longer than I have, he put a lot of memories in a lot of people's heads. He had a resurgence popularity thanks to Total Divas, and it seemed like he was in pretty good health. Him and Natty were always posting stuff. If you follow her on Instagram or even follow her on Twitter, they always shared a really, really good bond. In his personal life, he reconnected and remarried his first wife, and they had been together for, I think at this point, about 8 years, almost 9 years. And to be married for 21, I mean, separated, divorced for 10. So that's really, really good. It was really nice that he was able to reunite with his first love and be around his loved ones. It's just sad that he's yet another wrestler who passed away. And 63, there are some that passed away younger than that, certainly. It's still a fairly young age, and it's just scary to think the impact that this business has. And the impact and the toll it can take on a person's body. And I'm not going to get into any personal demons or issues that Jim had and slander his name at all for that. We all have demons. We all have things we're going through, and he seemed to have cleaned up his life good. Which was great because I honestly was worried about him for a while. He wrestled for a number of years. He wrestled from 1979, of course, trained by Stu Hart. Big shock, I know. Yes, Stu Hart, I swear, probably trained people after he passed away because that's just how good Stu Hart was. Jim Neidhart did start in Calgary, Stampede Wrestling. And Stu really took him under his wing, and it was really interesting to see Jim from earlier in his days. Or in his early days, and how he did have the energy, but he was, allowed to, go all out and that kind of stuff and do, have some good performances in Stampede Wrestling. I've only been able to see a bit of his stuff in Stampede. That was pretty impressive. Then going to his WWE times. The Hart Foundation, and Jim Neidhart was a bigger part of that, in my opinion, especially for a while, than Brett, because he helped take care of Brett. Brett may have been the better technician, but Jim was the energy and the charisma of it. He was more the veteran. He took care of Brett. He cut the promos really, really well. Like his energy, just like, him stroking his beard. I mean, I obviously don't have a beard here, but just him stroking his goatee. Yeah, it's the derb over there. Him stroking his goatee and just like all fired up and everything. And I can't do his laugh, and I'm not going to try to do that, but look up his promos. You're really going to appreciate it. But them working as a heel tag team is just so tremendous. So working with the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, and various others. They worked with a lot of really great teams. There were a lot of teams they worked with, don't get me wrong, but those are two that stick out in my mind, especially the British Bulldogs. Their work, just second to none, even with Dynamite being how he was. Dynamite and Davey Boy Smith were still a great team. And it was, two power guys, but especially a power guy and a speed guy. And that's what you had with the Hart Foundation. That's what was a great dynamic about them. And Jim Neidhart, as his career went along, they competed at various WrestleManias. They were just really, really good. And then they morphed into being baby faces after leaving Jimmy Hart's side. Because Jimmy Hart, is taking money from them and taking money from their contract. Because Jimmy Hart, this snide little bastard that he is, Jimmy Hart actually one of the greatest managers of all time and did help the Hart Foundation as well. But with Jim, you look at like when they became baby faces and just the pop that they got. Jim just having the energy and everything and just carrying the load of that and just having just this impactful offense. I mean, he was a former football player. So that's why he always hit with such force, because that's what he was taught. And you look at when, like, one of their biggest moments was when they beat Demolition for the tag titles. Now, they've been tag team champions before. But you look at their run, like when they beat Demolition at SummerSlam 1990 and the LOD had interfered. That was their last big tag title run. And the whole thing with the Rockers didn't end up happening. And that could have been a good series of matches, but it never really took off. And they lost to the Nasty Boys, and Jim kind of took a bit of a back seat. He had ended up teaming with Owen soon after. They were the New Foundation. That didn't last as long. Then he ran foul with the company, left, wrestled in Japan, actually in the G1 Climax in 1992, losing to Kensuke Sasaki. And then teamed with Tom Zank, I believe, in World Tag League, and they end up with 0 points. Which, that is what it is. But Jim's style would have fit perfectly for New Japan. He also wrestled in ECW a little bit when they were Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then when they were becoming a little more extreme and stuff like that. He even wrestled the Sandman in November to Remember 93. I'm sure that Jim probably carried Sandman to a very, very good match. I actually haven't seen that event. But he came back to WWE. Just his teaming with Owen and being just a conniving heel and wanting to get back at Brett and everything, and siding with Owen, the younger brother, the younger brother of Brett. And the Brett-Owen feud speaks for itself. It's one of the best of all time, in my opinion. Jim and Owen working well together. Jim kind of took a bit of a backseat around the end of 95. And then, sometime in 96, he was on house shows and stuff like that, but I don't remember him as often on Raw in 96. Some of that's a little blurry to me. Then he wrestled as a character who, that's better left unsaid, but Jim did what he could with it. His biggest run may have been when they reunited the Hart Foundation. It was Brett, Jim, Owen, Pillman, Davey. Fucking hurts the most. Brett's the one that's left. Brett. That's it. And no, I love Brett. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not. That came out wrong. It's just the fact Brett's the only one that's left. There were 5. Now there's 1. But the Hart Foundation is one of the best runs that Jim had. The New Foundation, or the Hart Foundation, the trio of 5, and just the Canadian Stampede, the 10-man tag, where literally, and go back and watch it. Jim did well, and it was a great 10-man tag. It's a great main event. Calgary crowd was on fire. Whenever the Harts had the offense, whether it was Jim, whether it was Owen, whether Pillman, Bulldog, Brett, the camera was shaking because they wanted to see them win. It was a great moment. When the Hart Foundation won, everybody got to celebrate, Jim included. That was a landmark moment. And after that, his career went where it went. Screw job. He went to WCW for a bit. That didn't work after Bulldog's injury, especially. He had made amends with the company. He did wrestle on Impact in one of, I think, the last televised match that he had, and that was in November of 2009. And then he had his issues, but he got his life back on track. And it seemed like him and his wife and everything was good. And I'm sure it was good even to this day. It's just sad to think that a guy, died as young as he did. In 63, okay, stuff can happen. Jim Neidhart's career meant a lot because he was a big part of a great faction and one really great team, and one team that should have gone somewhere but didn't for obvious reasons I'm not going to say here. But Jim, it's a career to be celebrated. A hell of a guy. From all accounts, from what I understand, there were people that met him that said he was super nice, super gracious, and just really giving to the fans. So Really, all I have to say is just once again to Jim's family, friends, to fellow fans. Love fellow fans. Leave in the comments your favorite Jim Neidhart moments, wherever they were from. Leave them in the comments. Let's all do our own tribute videos. Let's celebrate the life of Jim Neidhart and other wrestlers who have passed on. Whether from recent, from years ago, and in the future. Let's keep their memories alive by just respecting them and hey, appreciate people while they're here. It doesn't mean to be sad. I mean, on a sad note, but it is a sad day. Appreciate people while they're here because sometimes you never know when they're going to go. So rest in peace, Jim, Natty, everybody. Just so sorry. You're in our thoughts, well wishes, all that. I hope WWE gives Natty all the time she needs. But Jim Neidhart, rest in peace.